Hi guys, so today I am super excited to show you this 3D Rubik's Cube design that I have come up with. It's 3D squishy. I have stuffed this one with a bit of hobby fill toy stuffing, but you don't really have to stuff it if you don't want to. It's a bit bigger than my dice. Yeah, so it's a little bit more fiddly, but I hope you can give it a go. And yeah, let's get started. I will be working with the same colouring as an original Rubik's Cube, all Rainbow Loom brand bands, white, black, ocean blue, neon green, red, orange and yellow. 6 colours for each, one for each side of the square of the Rubik's Cube. You can do whatever colours you like, but I'm just going to stick to the basic colours for it. And you will need black for, or like I said, whatever colour you choose for your outline of the design and to stitch it together. Band count for this design. I will be using the black, like I said, for the outline of the design and the stitching. Approximately 400 black bands. That is including the crossbands. Now, I did say 400 black bands before, but you will actually need closer to 500 because I didn't include stitching the two pieces together. Alright, so if you get a bag of 600, then you'll well and truly be safe. You will need approximately 72 of each colour, so each side is 72 coloured bands. So also on my Facebook I have posted just a little bit of information with a test piece, just explaining a little bit about using crossbands and how you can choose different options. Then I have also put up a mud map style pattern on my Facebook for this design. So I'm hoping that you have at least watched one of my other videos or tutorials for these techniques that I'm using. So yeah, you can find that on Facebook as well if needed. We're going to jump straight into this. We will be using the same technique as in my previous tutorials. So just your 2 peg bars directly next to each other, arrow pointing to your right, and for the first row it's just going to be a chain of black, and so our pattern is 8 rows wide. For the first chain, I'm going to start where the arrow is pointing. I'm just going to lay a band, and I'm going to keep doing that all the way down. Now I am going to try and work just a little bit faster than I normally would, so you may have to pause and rewind. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've got 8 bands across 9 pegs. So starting at the peg that the arrow is pointing to, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pegs. So for that last one, I want you to do a cap band. I just want to grab a single band and wrap around that peg 3 times. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Now we're going to loom that back up and onto itself. Should look like this. Starting from the bottom, grabbing that bottom band, bringing it up and back onto itself. Then the next band, straight up and onto itself, following all the way up. Until you get to that last band where the arrow is pointing to, and I want you to turn that one into a slip knot. So grab that bottom band up over the top, and then grab that band again and pull it tight. Just place it on that one there. So that's what you should have, your chain, and that's your first row there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Rubik's Cube. I'm just going to line it up to where we're up to. So now we're laying our first row with the white. Starting with the first white, 2 single bands on your first. So we've got with our chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pegs, not counting this one here on the first one, which will be counting this one or that one, however you want to do it. So we've got white, 2 singles, and then again 2 singles. Now the black one is going to be a cap, so 1 single doubled. Then we'll go 2 whites again, 2 whites again, another black single doubled, 2 whites again, and 2 whites again. So that's our first row laid out, that row there. Now all we're going to do is bring that bottom chain up and over and into the middle of that row that we just lay out. That whole bottom chain, that outside, up and over and into the middle, down to that cap band, move it over so it's, push your bands down, and that's what you should have there. Right, so moving on to the next row. Now this is a little bit tricky because this is actually where I add an extra black. So we've done our first row of colour for that side. I want you to add an extra black to even it out, to make it more square shaped. This is what I've decided to do. So single, doubled, straight over that black one there, and then another one straight over that black one there, and then we're just going to move that bottom row of black up and over and into the middle on both sides. Just the 2 bottom. Alright, now we'll go on with our next line. So I'm going to lay 2 crossbands, each one going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then starting again, so overlapping 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like so, 5, and then 5. And then going on with the next line, 2 white, 2 white, black, single doubled, 2 white, two white, black, single doubled, 2 white, and then once again 2 more white. So we'll bring those crossbands up and over into the middle, starting at the bottom one, or the last one that you laid down, and then the next one just up and over into the middle there. And now we will work that bottom row on both sides up and over into the middle. I find it easier to go this way, so my arrow is pointing down obviously, and starting at the top and just grabbing the bottom band, the bottom 2 bands on both sides, and bringing them up and over. Like so. just the bottom 2, so the last row of the pattern. All the way down to the bottom. And then you will be pushing your bands down, laying your crossbands once again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on with the next row, which will be just a row of single capped black bands. So single doubled, single doubled, single doubled, all the way down that row. And then working the crossband up and over into the center, and the next one up 2, and going for your next bottom row, up and over and into the middle. Just those 2 bands on the bottom row, all the way down, up and over. Okay, so pushing your bands down again. We're on to the next row, which has the white in it. So putting down your crossbands again, 5, overlapping 2 and then 5 again, 2 single white, 2 single white, single black doubled, 2 single white, 2 single white, 2 single white on the next. Just skipped the black single doubled there, so then 2 single white and the last 2 single white. And that's the next row done. So bringing those crossbands up and over, and then working your bottom row, which will be all black, up and over. Sorry, my lighting's not fantastic in here. Sometimes it's hard for me to see. If you can see, working that whole row down, and pushing your bands down. So you can probably release that last band now. Doesn't really make a difference. I'll just dangle down the bottom there. Onto our next row. So just going to go as normal. Crossbands. Pardon me. You may have to experiment with your crossbands, like I said. Band choice does make a difference, but this is what I found that works well for me. So once again, your whites, 2 single white, black single doubled, 2 single white, black single doubled, and another 2 single white. And that's that row done. So getting those crossbands, and then looming that bottom row up and over. So it doesn't really matter how you decide to loom that bottom row. As you can see, I just did one side, now I'm doing the other, like I do in my other tutorials. It's just whatever's comfortable for yourself, and also as long as you're not pulling on these bands too much and really pulling it through one side more than the other, you shouldn't have to stretch it and fix it up so much at the end, if you get what I mean. So pushing your bands down and onto the next row, which is that black. If you can see, it's starting to feed through more so. You may be able to count your rows if you try. We've got the black chain, one row of white, another row of white, another black chain, one row of white, another row of white. So now we got to do another black chain. So 5 and 5 for your crossbands. Well, not black chain should I say, but just a row of single blacks doubled. And just the last couple. And that's that row done. So moving those crossbands up and over. And now moving your bottom row up and over and into the middle again. And down the opposite. Okay, pushing them down and onto the next row of colour, putting our crossbands down, 5, overlapping 2 and then 5 again, and our next row of pattern, 2 of your colour, single doubled, 2 of your colour, single doubled, two of your colour, and then the last 2. Okay, now working those crossbands over, we're going to do the bottom row, but this is where I want to be a little bit tricky, and this is where I want you to remember it. We do this step after we do, so when we do the first row of colour of one side, and when we do basically in between the two, so the last row of colour. So we're doing this row right now. I want you to slip a stitch in again. So we've just laid out that row. I'm going to bring over those black ones. And then I'm going to pop another black one and another black one on top and bring over the whole row. So what we've done is same thing that we did at the start. If you remember, we just slipped that extra black stitch in there, and that is going to help us have more of that square looking cube for the Rubik's Cube. So bringing your whole bottom row of the design up and over into the middle, and we just lay out that one and added that tricky stitch in the middle there. We'll call it Vicky's tricky stitch if you want, I don't know if anyone else has done designs with that in it yet, but I'm sure you can let me know. And we're doing our last row with the colour. So putting down your crossbands. Doing that last row of that square. Black single doubled. So now you should have laid out that whole first side on the loom, and we've just got to bring that last line over, so crossbands over into the center, working that bottom row up and over into the center. And this is another little tweak in my design, same as the dice, the mini cube, that tutorial that I did. We're not going to put a crossband down when we lay our edges. So where it turns into an edge, we're not going to lay a crossband down, so we're going to forget that. But for this design, because it's a bigger cube, I've decided that we're going to, instead of black cap bands, we're going to do 2 singles. So now doing this line, not putting a crossband, and just going on with 2 single blacks, 2 single blacks, 2 single blacks, all the way down for that line of the design. And then as normal, we're going to work that bottom row up and over into the center. We didn't have a crossband, so we're just going to skip that step and go straight for moving that bottom row up and over into the middle. Just going to push your bands down again, and you should actually be able to pull your design through the bottom bit now to stretch it out. You will have gaps where the crossbands are, but that will settle a lot. Believe me, it should settle a lot. You can see that I've got like quite a bit of gaps, so you know, we don't want it to be super tight, but just give it time to get the whole design out and stretch it, and they will disappear. Okay, they will settle at least. Alright, so that's that done. We're moving on to the next colour. For me it's orange, and we're going with the first row of the colour, so we're laying down our crossbands, 5, overlapping 5, and doing that row of the design, 2 singles of the colour, 2 singles of the colour, single black doubled, 2 singles of the colour, and so on. Single doubled, so we've just done that line. I'm going to bring our crossbands up and over, and because it is the first row of colour on the next side, where's the orange one? Okay, so because it was that first row of colour, we're going to do our tricky Vicky stitch, and And we're going to slip that extra black cap one in between, so bringing that black, which will be 2 singles because we just did the edge, up and over both of the blacks. Then we're going to put another single doubled on each of those and just act as if we never did. Alright, so bringing your whole row of your pattern up and over. So don't forget that you did, obviously, because that should make a much better square of our Rubik's Cube, I think. Bringing that whole row up and over into the middle. So now we don't have to worry about that tricky Vicky stitch until the end of that square. We'll just move on with laying down your crossband. The next row of that design. Single double. And that's another row laid out. So bringing those crossbands, not flicking your bands off, of course. Those back ones that I lost on there. Put the orange ones back that I lost on there, should I say. And bringing those crossbands up and over into the middle. And then bringing your bottom row up and over the top and into the middle. So that's the first 2 rows of that colour done. And now we need to do your crossbands again, of course, and just a straight row of black, or cap bands, should I say. You don't have to make them black. You can make your Rubik's Cube whatever colour you like. I'd love to see some tie-dyed crazy Rubik's Cubes. Please, please don't forget to tag me, hashtag Vixxstarr, same way my channel's spelt. It'll make me so happy. So doing that line there of just singles doubled. Alright, and then we're going to move our crossbands up. And then we're going to do that bottom row once again. Up and over into the middle. Both sides. Making sure that I'm just getting those 2 bands on the bottom row. Pushing your bands down once again, laying those cross bands. We're on to the first row of the colours with the squares with the colour, should I say, and going on with that row. single double, and 2 of your colour, 2 of your colour. Alright, so we're up to there. That will be our next row with the colour. Bringing up those crossbands, and then bringing up your bottom row of the design, which will be all black, or all capped bands, should I say. They don't have to be black. I'm just pushing that. I'm just putting it out there. I want to see some crazy, insane Rubik's Cubes. I have been experimenting with, yes, very much just your regular Rubik's Cube colours, but I have been experimenting with cheap, crappy bands as well. So for my good one, I wanted it to be rainbow loom bands. On to the next row. So crossbands, first one down, second one down, and on with that next row. 2 single, 2 single, single doubled, 2 single, 2 single, single doubled, and the last 2. Need more orange. I can't get my lid off. Need more orange. That'll do. So there we go, and bringing those crossbands up once again. And working that bottom row up and over. Okie dokie. Pushing all your bands down, probably pulling it through the bottom as well, and you'll be able to see that those lines in the pattern that are further down that you did first, the bands are coming in, those spaces are coming in. So don't fret quite yet if yours does have quite big spaces. Wait till you get it off the loom. And we're going on with the next row, which is the plain cap bands. So laying your crossbands again and just doing a full row, singles doubled. Making sure you don't miss any. Couple. Grabbing those crossbands up and over into the center and working the bottom row up and over. Okay, pushing your bands down. On to the next row, which is the first row of the last blocks in our side. So putting our crossbands down, 5, and laying that row 2 singles doubled, single, single double, and there we go. Once again, in between those two, we're slipping our tricky Vicky stitch, so bringing your crossbands, not losing any of your bands, and bringing your crossbands up and over into the center. We're going to do just those black ones. Bottom row over into the middle. Then we're going to replace them. Single doubled, single doubled, and we're going to loom our full bottom row up and over and into the center. Down both sides, not missing any, and pushing your bands down onto the last row of that colour. So I'm going to grab some more black, putting crossbands down, and then we are going to do 2 as normal, 1, 2, 2. Sorry guys if I pause every now and then, and I am a little bit shaky. I've had quite a few coffees today. And there we go. That is our last row with our orange of that side laid out, doing those crossbands up and over into the center. And then our bottom row up and over. Same on both sides. And there we have an orange one done. So moving on to the next row, which is just the black, but remembering that that's also a corner, we are just going to, like I said before, forget your crossbands. We're going to do 2 single black bands down that whole row. These are the ones we are going to fold at the end and try and make a nice edge out of. So 2 single bands all the way down, no crossband, so then just working that bottom row with the colour up and over. And down both sides. Pushing them down, moving on to our last square, because we are doing it in 2 pieces, so we're doing 3 squares. We're going to end off at the end of the 3rd square, and then we are going to do another 3. So We'll move on with the green. Going on with your next row, laying your crossbands. And starting for me with green. Single doubled. Single green again. I love this colour green. So pretty. And that's our first row of that colour. So bringing those crossbands up, and what are we going to do? We're going to slip in that tricky Vicky stitch. So we're going to loom those black 2 doubles over and slip another black single doubled in there, another one in there. Now we're just going to loom that up, that full row of black like we normally would. On both sides. Pushing your bands down. And moving on to our next row, so putting our 2 crossbands, one and then the other, and another row with 2 coloured, single doubled, 2 coloured, single doubled, and 2 coloured. Working those crossbands up and over, working that bottom row up and over, both sides. My young fella has just woken up. I can hear little bubby footsteps coming towards me. Hi there. Ah, and here he is. Alright, give me a moment and I'll be back. So we've just done this row of green. We're going to move on to the next row, laying our crossbands once again, and it's just going to be a full row of singles doubled. Singles doubled, singles doubled, singles doubled. And last one. Now bringing those crossbands up and over and working that bottom row with the coloured up and over and the black and the coloured. Both sides. And of course, always making sure you're just grabbing those 2 bottom bands from your previous row. Pushing all your bands down, pulling it through the bottom if you like. You can see I still have gaps there, but as you get further down, they are nowhere near as bad. So I will still stretch them out more once I get it off. Moving on to the next row with the coloured, so putting our crossbands, 2 coloured, single double, 2 coloured, 2 coloured, single double, 2 coloured, and 2 coloured. Bringing that crossband and the next crossband, and then once again working that row of just the black for me, singles doubled, up and over. And pushing your bands down on to the next row with the coloured, crossbands down and coloured, 2 singles coloured, single doubled, 2 coloured, 2 coloured, single doubled, 2 coloured, 2 coloured, crossbands, up and over into centre, and then bottom row, up and over and into the centre. Making sure you're not missing any of the pegs and making sure you're grabbing both of the bands, the bottom row, and pushing all your bands down again. Pulling it through a bit more, onto the next, just the black, putting down our crossbands, doing our row black, singles, doubled. Singles, doubled, singles, doubled. I think my young fella is looking for food. All good. He's throwing tiny teddies everywhere now. So bringing those crossbands up and over. We've just done that line of the single doubles, and then working that bottom row up and over. On both sides. Pushing your bands down. Now we are up to the last block of those coloured squares for that colour. So putting down our crossbands, 1, 2, and then doing a coloured, 2 coloured, 2 coloured, single doubled, 2 coloured, 2 coloured, single doubled, 2 coloured, and 2 coloured. So then we're going to do our tricky Vicky stitch in between there. So bringing our crossbands up and over. Bringing over just those black bottom row of the black bands. Slipping in our tricky Vicky. One single doubled, one single doubled, and going on with looming that whole bottom row up and over. I've got a full house now. My young fella's awake, as you could hear, and my hubby is now home from work. So that whole row up and over, pushing your bands down, and we are going to do the last row with the coloured. So putting your crossbands going to colour. Sorry about that. To colour, single doubled, to colour, to colour, single doubled, to colour, and please don't, Bubba. Come on, Mummy's nearly finished, okay? I got to do one more line and then I'm done for the moment. So we've put down our last row, bringing up those crossbands. Oh, you're right. And then looming your bottom row of your design up and over. Over, up and over. And we are at the end. For me, should I say, I'm at the end of my green square. So we want to do a row of... Yes, darling. So we want to do a row of black. We're going to... See how hard it is for me to loom with this one here? I have to do it when he's sleeping. We're going to do our row of black. We're going to forget our crossband. And we're just going to do single... Just single black bands. Oh, Bobby. Single black bands.
Done.
Nearly done. Very good. Okay, so for this last row, we have laid down just one single black band. All the way down, and no crossband. We are going to loom that bottom row straight up over into the center. On both sides. And now we will be doing my closing technique to finish up that piece. You should just have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pegs, black or whatever colour you chose, just a single band. Gonna go to the last one, the top band, grab it, bring it straight over onto its opposing peg, Then I want you to put your hook straight down so that you've got them on. Grab them off, and then we're going to reach in to the next top band, grab it, and pull those bands onto it. So then go down, grab the next band off its peg, grab that next top band, swivel your hook around and pull it through what you had on your hook. So then going down again, grabbing the bottom band off the peg, grabbing the next top one, pulling it through the band you have on your hook, collecting the bottom band again, moving on to the next top one, pulling it through, grabbing that next band off the bottom, moving on to the next top band, pulling it through the bands on your hook, collecting the band off the bottom peg, moving on to the next top band. I'm holding the band on with my thumb. Oops, still lost it, but I was thinking I probably should have said that at the start. Holding the band on with my thumb. Pull that band through those two, collecting the bottom band, moving on to the next top one, pulling it through and collecting the bottom band. So that should be you done with that piece. We've just got that last band on our hook. I'm going to grab a single black and just slip knot it. Okay, this is what we've got. Might look a little bit rough at the moment because we've got the two overlapping in the middle. What I want you to do is grab both of those coloured ones on either side, and I want you to pull them gently, but enough so that you can make a nice gap in between them, all the way up, like so, and feel around with your end so that all your bands fall into place. Then I want you to stretch it around, move it around, pulling the bands. So next time you look at it, you will see that those gaps have closed, like almost completely disappeared for me, and that is nice tension also. So you can do that again, but they're settling into themselves. What I want you to do is I want you to go ahead, make the next three, do this exact same thing again. So go back and watch, if you need to, watch me make this piece, remind you where to leave no crossbands. It will remind you where to put in your tricky stitches, and I will see you in a moment with two pieces exactly the same, three different colours again, and we will put together our Rubik's Cube. So you will be starting with a black chain, straight black chain, like we did at the start, of single bands, and then moving on with the design till you get to the end and ending with those single black bands. I'm going to get rid of this pink cord now. Sorry about that, guys. Can't believe I didn't notice it. So I have got my two pieces. I'm hoping that you have got two pieces that look much the same or very similar, or at least the same as each other. And the one band where we started, so it was this one on the white. We don't actually need that, so I'm going to remove it. And then on the other side, I started with the blue, so it was that one. Don't need that either. So now we have our two pieces. Stretch them out, get any gaps to try and close up as much as possible, make your bands comfortable, and choose a side that you like the look of better. Then I want you to start folding in the crease in between, so they will start to look something like that. You can give a little tug on these bands, just pinch them, and that tends to work pretty well. Just those two double black bands, two single black bands should I say. So we've got that like so, and the same with the other side. Choose a side that you like, start folding it just to make that basic shape, pinching the sides. And once you've done that, you can see we are going to join them. Okay, so get your hook, get your bands ready. Now we're going to join these two pieces together. What I want you to do is grab your pieces, so there's the end of one and the end of the other. Probably put them together, so we're going to hide them in to begin with, and also make it so that they can't get caught on anything too easy. So for me, I'm going to put my red and my green, and I'm going to start by going through that end green band, all four, so the same as where that black band went through. Then I'm going to go through on this side the 1, 2, 3, 4 of the black that are there on that cross running line, just so those outside bands. I'm going to grab a band, pull it through all of those, place it back on my hook. Then I will grab just the two in the green, the two bottom. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, two bottom bands, and I'm going to move on to the next, to the red, and I'm going to go for the two outside bottom. Sorry about that, guys. I'm going for the two on the outside bottom of the next stitch there, and I'm going to grab a band and I'm going to pull that through, and I'm going to replace it back onto my hook. Then I'm going to take those two that I've just put up, that one that I've just put on, the two ends, and I'm going to feed it through, and so we've done a slip stitch. So next we're going to go into the back of that next stitch of the green, missing out that black. Just going to grab the back of that end stitch of the green, and we're going to go on to the next back of the stitch of the red. I'm going to pull a band through, and then we're going to feed those through, slip stitch it, and on to the next, which is a black. We're going to grab the back of the black one there, go on to the next one, which is also a black, go into the back two of the black one there, grab a band, pull it through, and then replace it on your hook and slip stitch. Okay, so that's what it should be starting to look like. Sorry, my lighting is not fantastic. Go on to your next stitch, which will be a green again. I'm going to grab those back stitches. Sorry, I'll try that again. In, and just grab those two at the back. Into the next red, grab those two on the outside at the back. And we're going to do this all the way around. So I'll do this with you for a while. Slip stitched it through. So we've put it back on the hook and then slip stitched it through. And then the same with the next one, going through to that back to green, and then the back front, should I say, to red. Pull the band through, replace it on your hook, and then slip stitch it through. So I'll do this with you halfway round, then I will keep going, but I'll fast forward it so that you're not having to see me do the whole thing. Hopefully by then you've caught on anyway. So the next stitch is going to be the back of the black band there, doubled, and going through the back of the next, which is also a black, feeding a band through, placing it on your hook, and then slip stitching it through. So the next one, going through the back of those two green, or sorry, going to find those two back green, should I say, and then getting those two back red on the outside there, grabbing a band, pulling it through, replacing it on your hook, and then slip stitching it through. The next one, going through the back of that last green, going through the back of that last red on there, pulling a band through and replacing it on your hook, and then slip stitching. Now we will go through the whole, same as what we did on that end, we'll go through that whole green, so where that last stitch of black went through, so we'll go through the whole green, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll go through the whole of the black, which is that running stitch, the running corner, pull a band through all of those bands except for the last stitch there, placing it on your hook, and then slip stitching. So you can see this is what we've got so far. Alright, and now we're going to have to fold the yellow down. We're going to be moving around. So the last one we just did was that black edge and that full green. We're going to go and grab, tucking your band in to the back. We're going to go through and grab the back of that green two there, and then the back of the yellow two on the next square, pull the band through those two, replace it on your hook, and then slip stitch. Moving on to the next two green there, and then the two yellow back of the next, pulling a band through, replacing it on your hook, and then slip stitching. And the next back of that little black cap, back of that black cap, sorry I'm out of shot for a second, and then pulling a band through, placing your band and slip stitching it through. So you can see that the corner has come about there. As you're going, you can stop and just fiddle with your tension so that your bands just sit better. They make that edge. Going on with the next stitch, back of those green, back of those yellow, pull a band through, replace it on your hook, and then slip stitch. Back of the green, back of the yellow, band on your hook, pull it through, slip stitch, back of that black, back of the next black, pull a band through, replace and slip stitch, back of that next green, back of the next yellow, pull band through, sorry, and slip stitch, back of the next green, back of the next yellow, pull a band through, replace, and slip stitch. So now we're back on the next corner, which also should have our end band. Tuck that end band in. We want to go through both of the outside of that next black edge, both of the outside, and then we want to go straight up through both of those yellow there on the end that we've already gone through the back of the two, but we want to go through all of it now. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pull the band through. So 4 sets of 2 bands. Pull the band through those bands. Replace it on your hook, and then slip stitch that. Pulling that dangly band in to tuck it in. Moving on to your next orange, back of the orange. I'm going to go back in that same stitch through the back of that yellow. Grab the same bands we did on the other side. So you've gone through the back of it with 2, then straight through the middle, then we're going through the back 2. Grabbing a band, pulling it through, replacing it, and then slip stitching. And then on with the next, back of the orange, grabbing the next, twisting your bands around so you can actually see which band you're supposed to be grabbing, but it will be the back 2 of that next yellow. 1, 2, pulling a band through, tucking that band in, pulling a band through and replacing it, slip stitching onto the next, which is that black cap. It's hard to get at these ones, but I wanted to attach them not to that chain but to the actual design. So getting the 2 at the back of that cap band with the next 2 at the back of the cap band. My eyes are starting to go funny from focusing, but there we go, we got it. And pulling a band through, replacing it and slip stitching it. It's going on to the next, the back of that orange, and the next, the back of that yellow. Pulling a band through, placing it on your hook and then slip stitching. Back of that orange, back of the next yellow, pulling a band through and slip stitching. Okay, so now going through the back of the next black and then finding the back of that next black. It's a little bit tricky, and feeding a band through, replacing it on your hook and then slip stitching, going through your next back of your orange and then the back of the next 2 of the yellow, pulling a band through and replacing it and then slip stitching. Then going through the back of your next orange and curling this band around so that you can see the back 2 bands of the yellow. Pulling a band through, replacing it, slip stitching, and now because we are at the corner again, we are going to go through both of those black outside bands, and then we're going to go through both of those yellow, so we're going through the center of it. Pull a band through all of those bands except for the last 2, replace and then slip stitch those last 2, following on to the next on this side, which is the back of the white, And then staying on that yellow again, grabbing the back 2 bands, pulling a band through, and then slip stitching, grabbing the back of the next white 2, back of the next yellow, grabbing a black band, slip stitching, grabbing back of the next cap bands, pulling a band through, slip stitching, back of the next white, back of the next yellow for me, pulling a band through, slip stitching, back of the next white, back of the next yellow, pulling a band through, replacing and slip stitching, back of the next cap band, back of the next cap band, grabbing a band, pulling it through, slip stitching, back of the next white, back of the next yellow, pulling a band through, and slip stitching. So now we're back up to another corner. Pardon me, going through the back of that white on the corner, the back of that yellow. Let me just make sure that I have got the correct side of the white. No, I didn't, so making sure you're grabbing the back of the white, the back of that yellow, pulling a band through, replacing, slip stitching. Then we're going to go through that whole part of the yellow and then the whole black and black on that corner edge. Black and black, pull a band through, replace and slip stitch. Then again the back side of that white, we're going to have to find it in through here. So the back 2 bands, that's fine, so those 2, and then the back 2 red on the next line, pulling a band through, replacing and slip stitching. Now we're on to the next white, grabbing the back of the white, grabbing the back of the red, the next red, pulling a band through, and slip stitching. So now we're pretty much halfway. What you can do is just start stretching it a little bit. So you'll notice where you've been doing your stitching, you need to grab the actual stitching, try and center it a bit more so you're fixing up the tension. It'll start to sit into itself a little bit better. It will sit more in between those 2 pieces instead of off to one side. And yeah, fiddle around with it a little bit just to, like I said, release that tension. Don't go overboard. And keep stitching around until you get all the way to the other side. So what I might do, I'll keep stitching, but I'm going to fast forward and I'll get back to you when I've come back up to the other end. Alright. So I'm now up to the second last corner. Like I've said, you can stop and grab those bands that we're stitching through. Give them a little bit of a stretch. Push your corners out because you're not going to get a chance to after you've stitched it all together. Like, don't be too rough, but you know, give them a little bit of a stretch. Get that shape to try and come in a little bit nicer. Decide if you're going to stuff your Rubik's Cube or not. With this one, I think I will stuff it. I'm just going to use hobby fill, but you can use cotton wool, plastic bag, anything that you think would be good enough for stuffing. So we're back to the corner. I'm going to go the 2 down that edge, straight up through the whole thing. And that blue one, I'm going to take both of those, pull the band through, through, and slip stitch. So up to the last edge on the home straight. So I'm going to go through the blue, through the back of the green, the back of the blue, pardon me, and slip stitch, back of the green, back of the blue, so close to the end. Caught an extra stitch there, but I'm not going to worry about it. Back of that one, back of that one, pull a band through, slip stitch, back of the next one, back of the next one, pull a band through, slip stitch, back of the next colour, back of the next colour, pull the band through, slip stitch. Should have just enough room to stick your finger in there now. I'm going to put that up, fiddle around with your stitching, make sure that your cube is coming into the cube shape that you want it to be. Like I said, it will get better with a little bit of time as well. But I am going to stuff it. So I'm going to grab some of this hobby fill and I'm just going to poke some in that hole. There we go. And didn't have to put too much in because I don't want it to be a pillow. I just want it to be, you know, so that I can squeeze it. And that's a pretty good shape. So I think I'm pretty happy with that. Maybe just the tiniest little bit more in there. Okay, and last few stitches, don't lose your band. in through the back of that black, in through the back of that black, pull a band through. Went a little bit too far, that one. Try that again. That one, pull band through, and replace and slip stitch. Pushing that stuffing in, so grabbing the back of the next green, blue. Pushing it together helps too, to grab those bands, get at those bands. Slip stitch. Back of the next one, back of the next one. And we should be right back where we started. Slip stitch. So, right back where we started. Grab that complete green on the end there, and then go completely through those blacks. I'd take 2, drag 2 through.
A vast virus database has been updated.
Drag it all the way through that last one as well, and slip knot it. So this is what you should have. Your Rubik's Cube. Looks a lot more like a cube than any of the other ones that I've made. Still possibly just that little bit rectangular, but I think it's a lot better. So there you go, guys. Stretch your bands around, play with it as much as you can, and it will find its shape. But there's those corners for you. Please, if you do make some, if you can, share them on Facebook, Instagram, tag me at Vixxstarr. I'd love to see. Here is my Rubik's Cube graveyard, basically. My things that I tried that did not work. And the ones that I'm almost happy with. The one that we just made that I think is much better. So there you go, guys. My coin purse that I made months ago that I've been using was supposed to be a Rubik's Cube. Doesn't look like a Rubik's Cube. I am a lot happier with that outcome. So I hope you guys like it. And please hit subscribe, hit like, hit follow, and let me know what you think. Until next time, bye.